Tim, it's great to see you again.
Yes, and you, Rob. Hopefully things are going well for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's what is it now? The first day of summer or second day of summer, so can't complain. And keeping as busy as ever. So yeah, great to chat with you today about AI and legal tech and everything in between.
So there's been a number of conferences, webinars, initiatives. Everybody's on this topic, talking about AI in every industry. But I've seen a lot of them talking about AI in the legal community, specifically what that's going to mean for legal. And I know that you did go to a conference a couple of weeks ago addressing AI in the legal market. So what kind of things were people talking about there?
I mean, first of all, NotaryPro is a platform that connects people in their communities with notaries either online or in person. So first and foremost, we're providing notary public services all across Canada and now increasingly around the world. And we do that through our online notary app. And so as a platform, we've been, just as keen as every other startup out there looking at AI and how we can apply it into our solutions. So you mentioned conferences. So last month I attended the CanLIF conference in downtown Toronto. It's the Canadian Legal Innovation Forum. And that's the second year in a row that NotaryPro has been there. And we've had some really great conversations, both with the organizers and the speakers and some of the vendors there. And it's a really great chance to meet with other Canadian legal techs that are obviously in the industry. But I think that the question of AI really hit the forefront of the conference this year, because it's obviously been in the news, particularly towards the end of 2022. And then looking into this year, it's just been everywhere. Everyone's talking about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence and all these concepts that I feel like a year ago, none of us really knew how to talk about. So yeah, there's lots of different things we could unpack on that. But I think just as a general comment, the reality is that AI is here. And by that, I mean like usable, meaningful, customizable artificial intelligence tools. They really are here for legal technology companies, including NotaryPro, and I'm sure for yourself. So
yeah, and you're right, maybe I should give a bit of an introduction as well. So yeah, at LegalWills, we're providing an online service that allows people to write their own estate planning documents. So they can go online, kind of like using tax software, to step through, prepare a last will and testament, power of attorney, and a living will. And I guess what's interesting is that you're right, AI is everywhere. Everybody's talking about AI. And in a sense, what we've done for 23 years now is allow people to answer straightforward questions. Where are you? What's your marital situation? Do you have children? Who do you want to be the executor? So we're asking people in very layperson language so that we can then translate that to a legal document that's specific to their jurisdiction and specific to their family situation and indeed what they want to do in their will. So I don't think anybody would have called that artificial intelligence or AI, but we're kind of doing that. We're not, we're doing programming. We're doing basic programming. Right. We're taking people's inputs. We're not using AI, but we are using natural language, and then creating a document at the end of that. And so what I think is interesting is that in the legal community and in our frameworks, we're still very bound by what you can and can't do in a legal document. So we can't just go and randomly prepare a document and say, there it is, there's your will, because we have to use established legal precedents and we have to make sure that it is compliant with registered, well-established laws for your jurisdiction in order to prepare that document. So we can use programming, great. Can we use the creativity of artificial intelligence to prepare an ad hoc document that we will now call your will? And that is where that next step, I think, is going to be challenging for everybody. And that's, and we've played with with AI, ChatGPT, and I've used it myself to. If you go to ChatGPT specifically and ask it to write a will for you, it will say, no, I can't. I'm not a legal professional. I am an AI bot, and I cannot write a will. Yet, if you go to a lot of applications that layer on top of ChatGPT, so I've used one called Jasper, for example, and it's gonna have a go. It's gonna say, here's the last will and testament of me, Tim Hewson, and it's gonna write it, and it's gonna give you something. And that's probably where we're at now.
Yeah, but I think it's wise, particularly in the context of drafting wills and estate documents. I think it's wise that, you know, we're not just handing over the keys to the kingdom to the AI bots to, you know, redraft and recreate these fundamental legal documents for people. You know, on the NotaryPro side, people often, I think, frankly, overlook notary public services, but where we've found a lot of success already in leveraging AI is actually on the customer service side. So, for example, on any given day, we get asked probably a standard set of about 25 questions, and we answer the same questions every single day with maybe slightly different contexts or slightly different jurisdictions, but the answers are effectively the same. And so actually, right when, you know, the GPT thing was taking off last fall, we deployed a version of GPT within one of our customer service tools that answers client inquiries for our in-person network of notaries. So Google has a platform that encourages people via search to message businesses. And it's at that intersection that we deployed an AI tool that allows the client to get an immediate response, which is critical, and to get a correct response. And so with I think it was about a month of training, revisions of the instructions for the AI bot, we were able to get it to give answers that are basically, I'll say 99% correct 99% of the time. And that was a significant efficiency gain for us, because we went from having to manually answer inquiries that are sent via Google search, which often would take, you know, for example, there'd be a 12-hour turnaround because someone would message us after hours. Now that same client in that same journey will get the answer immediately. And that's what I think is probably the most surprising thing for people that have used tools like ChatGPT, is just how immediate the responses are and how thorough the answers are. And so once you start to understand instructions and how to create prompts with different sets of instructions, you can actually kind of control the AI scripts so that they don't get too creative, and that they don't try to, for example, invent a service that NotaryPro doesn't offer, or invent pricing structures that don't exist. We definitely had some experiences in the early days where the AI just decided to come up with a new service line, or say to a client that NotaryPro does not do something that we do in fact offer. And so that required some pretty strong corrections. And the nice thing is the AI doesn't really talk back, right? You give it the correction, and then it just deploys the correction within its logic framework. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of interesting stuff that's in our sort of broader product roadmap, like some of which I can kind of allude to, but I wouldn't sort of tip the hat completely here on a public call. But you know, we're really excited to build solutions that give answers to questions that people have about documents. Because at the end of the day, what we do at NotaryPro is we notarize documents. So documents are our currency. They're our lifeblood. We notarize client wills and powers of attorney from LegalWills, and we just built our first API integration, as you know, we've chatted about previously. And but at the end of the day, right now, we have to generally manually answer questions and inquiries from clients. So we're still a very human-led organization. It's actually in our mission statement to simplify and humanize notary public services. So we're still really keen to ensure that whatever AI solutions we might deploy, there's still that human element that is powering the experience. So there's a lot to kind of dig into there, as I think for every company that's looking at AI, it's not a magic solution. It's not a panacea for, you know, other problems that may be lurking within your business model, but it's really powerful.
So I'm really interested in your transition there, that first week, because we're going along down that same path. We also want to streamline our customer support side of things. But what happens, or what did happen, when your chatbot gave the wrong answer or gave some information that's incorrect? Because the way ours is set up, that person says, thanks very much, and they're gone, right? And you can't then follow up with that person and say, oh, excuse me, our chatbot got that wrong. Can we just clarify? We can train it for the next person. And the problem with I guess the challenge with the chatbot is, it's one thing to get it wrong describing the price of your service. It's another thing when that chatbot overextends itself to give information that is wrong and is potentially legal information. Like, we've been playing around with it, and something as simple as, can my executor be my witness to the signing of my document?
Right.
The chatbot said, no, that's wrong. That's clearly just incorrect information. The person says, great, thanks very much, goodbye, gone. Right. So we can train it for the next person, but how did you address incorrect information that chatbot was giving?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the scariest problem when you start deploying these solutions, is you don't know what you don't know or what you're about to find out. No, so in a couple of instances, and I mean, I would have to dig back through the records to really remember the ultimate result, but in a couple instances, we immediately had a human intervene and send a correcting, sort of a corrective message. In other instances, we felt when the answer was wrong, it was, I'll say, innocuous. So maybe it got the pricing incorrect. Well, if that client chose not to come back to us because the pricing information didn't match the website, maybe they might even forgive that and just simply book the service anyway. But what we had to do was put some parameters on the prompts itself. So, hey, whatever your opening line is to the bot, you'd say, you do this, you do not do this, you don't suggest X, Y, and Z. You will always ultimately remind the client to do Z. So typically we trained the bot to circle back to the ultimate objective, which is to get them to go on our website. Because in the case of this AI solution, it's actually interacting with the client within Google and within Google search. So it's actually not on our website yet. And so in that case, we're trying to get them to move over to the website. There are also, within that tool, there are some flows that you can build. So you can ask the bot to request the client's phone number, request their name. So it would collect that information so that we can then follow up from our customer service team. So yeah, and I think one of the realities with NotaryPro in particular is we're not a law firm. We're not providing any legal advice. We're not creating documents that have these, the legal weight and legal merit in terms of whether it's a will or a power of attorney. So we do offer different document templates that you can download, that you can fill out. And we have a new function that we've called the document creator, which I can chat about later. But we do have a tool where people can create documents. And it's in that context that we are eventually going to be trying to add in AI solutions. So for example, customer has a question, hey, I'm creating this document, I want it to say this, what should it say? We're experimenting currently with some of that capability to basically give guided instructions using a natural language model. So not using pre-programmed scripts, but a natural language model that's powered by probably GPT or OpenAI more specifically. So a lot of capabilities there that I think we're being really conservative about. I think initially we don't want to come out too hard too fast and frankly have it all screw up on us. So we're going to see kind of how things shake out. But I mean, I follow on Twitter every single day. I follow a whole bunch of people in the industry and on AI. And I mean, it's just remarkable what the industry is doing and what all these new tech companies and startups are doing with AI. So yeah.
I think one other key element to that is that when we have actually released it on some of our websites. So we do now have an AI bot. And we had this discussion internally, because at the top of the chat box, it says AI assistant. And I asked the question, it's like, why are we saying right from the get-go that it's an AI assistant? Aren't we trying to convey that we have a live support person here, right? Like,
Right.
are you trying to pass this AI person off as a real live person? And we very quickly concluded that no, we're not trying to pretend this is a real person, right? We're letting you know that you are now, but we do, you know, even in the days that we've had it, it's a really kind of quasi real person. People can get mad with this AI bot, right? And it's like, I just asked you this, right?
Right.
You know, why are you not listening to my question? And it's like, excuse me, like, this is a bot you're talking to, right? So
Yeah.
it's getting people to understand. And these, we're in the industry, we know ChatGPT, like 90% of the Canadian population are not going to understand how quickly this technology is moving, how quickly it's being deployed, and the fact that you're conversing and chatting with a bot. And even my the CTO on our side says, you know, we can do voice calls like this too, right? We can handle, and you can pick up the phone and call in and ask your questions, and you would never know that it's going to be an AI voice recording on the other end. So we can do that whenever you want. We can just turn that on. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure that our customer base is quite ready for that, because they don't understand that it's going to be a chat bot that they're conversing with. So it's a delicate line that you're drawing there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important distinction that has implications for your actual, you know, your bottom line. So if you, for example, as a business owner, you think, hey, well, I'm going to save a one full-time employee salary by just simply having an AI solution answer calls all day. I mean, you have to be very confident that that solution is as competent, you know, in providing correct answers as someone that you would perhaps need to train for a couple of weeks and get, you know, settled into a new role. But it also, I think the last point you made really speaks to a challenge that we identified at NotaryPro, which is, with the advent of all these AI solutions, how do you actually ensure broader and stronger human trust in the transaction? So in particular, on the NotaryPro side, what we do as notaries is we verify identities, we witness signatures, and we attest to the authenticity of that signature based on the fact that we've verified the individual's identity. So as these new tools come out, where, you know, there'll probably be one day an auto sign or a biometric ID with auto sign and that sort of thing, those tools have to be so error free to be able to say to the market, you don't need a human anymore, you just need this digital flow. But then I just saw a news report earlier this week that there are now bots that are cold calling people. They ask you one question, it's an innocuous question, and as soon as you answer it, if you speak for 3 seconds, all they need is 3 seconds of your voice audio to then artificially recreate your own voice using an AI voice simulator and synthesizer. And then they're away to the races. They can create almost a perfect match of your voice. And so on the NotaryPro side, we feel that the role of the human is actually,
you can't feel that that's being used for any good whatsoever, right? That's only got
not right now.
Nefarious purposes.
Yeah, and there is an individual, I forget their name, but an individual who's sort of long-standing within the AI development world, and, you know, someone watching this can Google after, but she was asked, you know, what is the probability that in the end AI is used for good? And I think she put it at under 20%. So there's but by some of the seasoned experts in this field, there's a perception and I think a sense, unfortunately, that ultimately AI will be used effectively against humanity. I don't put myself in the camp that is pessimistic by default. I think we need to be pragmatic and therefore realistic about, as a for-profit company, how are we using AI to actually enhance the humanness of our services? Because we believe that the humanity of services such as NotaryPro or LegalWills will actually be more important at a time when, let's flash forward 5 years, the AI voice synthesizers and facial synthesizers and deep fakes, those will probably be so good that it's almost impossible to detect whether they're real or not, right? So if we're living in that world in 5 years, I think it's probably more like 3 years away. The role of the human actually becomes even more important. And that's one of the things that NotaryPro, we're definitely leaning on and leaning into, which is to understand how a company grows and evolves when these AI tools are effectively sort of surrounding everyone simultaneously.
Yeah, so it is moving very fast. And I would say that at this point, right where we are now, if I look at the quality of responses for our customer support and the quality of documents that are being created, it's not good enough. It's not good enough right now to prepare legal documents. And the level of training is required to get a customer support bot up and running is probably a little bit quicker than getting a new hire. Because AI remembers they only need to be told once, right?
Right.
So when you do have the same question coming in over and over, and even if it's only come in once 3 years ago, the AI is going to be able to make reference to that. But it does take training. It does. You've really got to put the investment in to get that that knowledge base tight for the AI to respond correctly and not incorrectly. But the question is, like, is this going to mean, and what I'm reading in the legal circles is, does this spell the end for lawyers? Does it spell the end for online will services, right? Because we are ultimately a self-service tool. So where is the value that's being added? And absolutely, I can see what should be happening, and what we're using it for is removing the repetitive drudgery so that we can get on and offer real value added services, right? So we're not spending our time answering for the 100th time who can be the witness to the signing of my will. We probably asked that question 1,000 times in our history. So if we can remove those parts, and this is the same as any kind of industrial revolution across history, right? You're trying to mechanize the rote repetitive tasks so that we can go on and do more creative things, and even harness the technology to do amazing things that we previously couldn't do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I am a lawyer, so I can sort of speak from the lawyer perspective. I've used a number of tools that are sort of new to market. ChatGPT is one of them, but there's another one from a Canadian company. It's called Spellbook, and it's an AI assistant for lawyers. There's a ton of powerful features there, and you can obviously check it out online. But a lot of the features I think are really key for lawyers, which is to remove the drudgery of the law, which is like that repetitive task, the review of long form contracts that are way beyond, frankly, any human's ability to read properly, digest the implications of each term, correlate terms, apply what a contradictory term might mean relative to another term in the contract, conditional clauses and that kind of thing. There's, I think, on the contract analysis and review side, AI is going to be extremely helpful. So on that sort of corporate solicitor side for either big law firms or small firms, significant capability there. ChatGPT, there's been obviously use cases in the news where lawyers were using it, and it cited cases, the GPT cited cases that don't exist, and that kind of blew up in their faces. And so, I mean, on my side, when I've used GPT, I use it more for what I call a signals check. So it's like a quick question that you just want that general idea for the answer to, and you can kind of bounce that then off of your own understanding, or for example, go to a source material like a textbook and then be able to compare it. GPT is also great for sort of creative sparks. So you say, hey, I need to do something about topic X. Give me 500 words in 10 bullets that summarizes topic X. And for the most part, it's really good for that type of thing. But I do think lawyers, their jobs are probably safe for now. I do think these tools, though, will probably be baked into, or the AI tools, I should say, will be baked into the existing tool set that most lawyers use. It'll be, we already see it with Microsoft's Copilot. They're embedding GPT inside of Bing, which is now, I think, within basically the broader Microsoft suite or Office suite. And I think that's probably where lawyers will, in particular, will gain a lot of efficiencies. But the ability to trust the AI's answers, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge. I'm personally excited to see what Google does with their Bard AI and how they really deploy it within Google search results. I know you can get access to it in the United States, but not yet Canada. And I think, given their position within the market, I suspect Google will do a really impressive job of embedding it within their stack of apps. But just broadly, kind of sort of to sum up on this one, I think automation capabilities are significantly enhanced when you can add in that natural language processing and models. If you can quickly create a suite of documents that are slightly customized to a client's needs based on maybe a 30-question survey they filled out before they then use your tool. And I'm thinking even of LegalWills, you could perhaps build language models that stay within a framework, but guide the user in a way that feels more customized. So I think lawyers will find a way to deploy it in a way that's efficient. But yeah, the other reality is maybe there'll be a company that comes up with an AI bot that is just so smart and so good that you don't need to pay $400 an hour for a lawyer anymore.
Nor should you, right? Nor should you pay, like, if you want to do a simple transactions, like, and it's a repetitive transaction, why should that be $400? It shouldn't.
Yeah.
But there's one other area that is going to impact both of us as well, is Google search or any search engines, and how search engines are pulling up results. So can you talk a little bit about, like, if somebody's looking right now for notarization services, you want to be on that first page of a Google search, and presumably you have articles that you want ranked in the organic searches. Are you foreseeing a change in how your search results are going to be presented in that Google search result, and what that means for your knowledge base and blog articles and things like that? And how are people going to find you?
Yeah. Well, I think in the end, and I can speak to a couple of things, but I think, tools like GPT or AI, they're really good if you want to, I mentioned, I called it the creative spark. They're really good if you want to get maybe some content ideas, or you want to build a framework for some content. I do know that Google is working on algorithms that will detect when content has been created entirely by AI, and I think that's a good thing, because I think
but at the same time, AI is working on algorithms to make sure Google can't detect that it's been written by AI, right?
Totally. Well, so then that's the AI wars, and I think there's probably a lot of people that are afraid, and particularly on sort of the content creation side, they're afraid of what it means. And I've seen articles about certain news media companies doing layoffs, particularly on the content writer side. So there's a no joke reality to it. But I think for a lot of companies, NotaryPro included, to answer your question, I think content will have to be more tightly curated. So the answers will need to be much clearer. And I think that for it feels like the last 5 years, search results have become this game of, frankly, gaming Google. So you'll search like I want a blueberry pie recipe, and you get this 1,500 word blog post, and the first half of it is just gibberish about pies and how pies are good for you and yummy, and then there's ad after ad after ad, and that's because they've basically gamed the Google algorithm to get a high ranking article, and then the recipe is, no pun intended, but baked into the end of the article much later. And so I think that will be gradually done away with, and I think that more succinct, concise, and clear answers that are organically written, maybe with an AI powered prompt, I think Google will sort of prefer that. And I know for us, because we have this national network of notaries, we have an in-person network, we also have the online network, we're constantly balancing the need to answer customer inquiries about common documents, while also relaying the fact that we do have local experts that people can go and meet with. So articles that talk about notaries in Edmonton or notaries in Toronto and different neighborhoods in Toronto, and trying to make sure that they are genuinely helpful articles, not just sort of gibberish that refers to a specific neighborhood or community. But yeah, I think I think you're just companies will have to be better and sharper because as the AIs get better at detecting call it the garbage, your rankings will be punished accordingly.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been doing this now for 23 years, and we've seen so many evolutions of search and how to win search, how to get on that first page, right away through from when it started off, it was like keyword density, right? So you stuff in like the article as many times as you can, put that keyword into that article, and then it was like backlinks, and so they created link farms. If you link to us, we'll link to you. And every time that people have come up with a strategy for beating Google, it's almost like Google can say, you try to game us, you're going to the back page. Like, we are going to punish you. And everyone says, I don't know what happened. Your traffic was just falling off a cliff. And then I remember reading an article about an SEO expert who was working for a car body shop, and he realized that people in the area were really interested in apple pies. Like, it triggered a thought when you mentioned that, because it's like, so we wrote this, like, the key to the best apple pie is like, it's a car body shop, what are you doing, right? But it was like driving all of this traffic to the website. And so it's all of these gaming techniques that people have done over the years. And I think it will be interesting, because I think what we've already seen in the last year or two is the importance of video in search results. And that's now, like, your first page of a Google search is video shorts, and key snippets. And then they're going to put an AI response. Is going to be your first response. Is going to appear on that Google search. So I think it is going to change, and I think we're going to have to reevaluate a lot of the information that we're presenting. But from the LegalWills side, we've always felt that we're partly in the job of education. We don't feel like both of us are in businesses where people aren't doing this every day. They're usually doing it for the first time, like writing a will or getting a document notarized. They don't know what the process is. They don't know what we regard as basic questions through no fault of their own. People don't know what an executor and a beneficiary and a bequest and all of these terms are. It's just not part of. So we're in the business of educating people, and we don't feel that this information should be a secret. It shouldn't be tightly held by us. So to kind of convey value, we want to make it available to everybody, but we will have to start looking at the knowledge base that we have, and maybe it's too verbose. Maybe we've overwritten a lot of our articles. They don't need to be 3,000 word articles. They can be 300 word articles. And we will take a look at the results in Google search, may change how the search results are presented to people, because ultimately we still want to be on that first page. We still want people to find us. Yeah,
and I think what ultimately you're speaking to is what we call the principle of access to justice. And maybe we don't think about creating a will or notarize a document as accessing justice, but it's accessing the legal system, or arguably the near legal system, where you're getting the answers. You didn't actually need to retain a lawyer. You didn't necessarily need to hire a lawyer to help you navigate something, but you did touch the legal system because you're interacting with either a will creations tool like LegalWills, or you're accessing notaries who, in Ontario anyway, are legal professionals. They're licensed paralegals or lawyers. And again, shout out to my alma mater, which is Windsor Law, because the underlying theme, and while I was there over 10 years ago now, to date myself, is access to justice. And we've always intended and been very intentional within the NotaryPro platform to do what we call demystifying notary services, because for the most part, people don't know what a notary is. They don't know what they do. They don't know what the experience is supposed to be like. And more recently, when I've gone out to try to raise investment money and I've been speaking with venture capital firms, I talk a lot about the fact that most people really have no idea what a notary public is. They just don't know until they get handed a document that has this little signature box at the bottom, and then they see this title that says notary public underneath, and suddenly they're Googling notary public. And so ultimately, I think we have to be developing solutions with that in mind, that the average consumer, if they don't create a will every year, which most people don't, or if they don't notarize a document every year, which we know statistically they don't, the experience needs to be as simple as possible, or as we put it, as easy as it gets. Because for the most part, if we have a great experience with one client, let's say in 2023, the next time they need a notary, maybe it's 2026, they're just going to Google notary public again and hopefully remember our brand and come back to us, right? So it's tough to capture people and keep things as simple as possible while also being thorough and comprehensive with your solution. And so hopefully, I think as we look at deploying AI solutions, it's ultimately facilitating that ease of use and that simplicity and sort of the end goal of serving the individual, or like I'm saying off the top, humanizing the whole experience, while also keeping it efficient.
Yeah, and absolutely, I do agree that giving people the knowledge and answering their questions for things that they don't typically do is really where AI has massive potential. I was going to say is great, but it's not quite great yet. But it's nearly great. And right now, I would not ask AI to write my will for me. I don't trust that. But maybe 3 years from now, maybe I will trust it. But certainly answering questions that I may have about, if I went to an AI tool right now and asked some questions about notaries, even though it's different across every province, I would expect an AI tool to know that. So if I asked it what the difference is between a notary in BC and a notary in Ontario and Quebec, I would expect an AI tool to give me an accurate answer at this point in time, and I'm sure it would.
Yeah. And I think too, when I think about smartphones and the smartphone experience, and I know the CEO of Microsoft was referencing this kind of context a couple months ago when GPT sort of took the world by storm, it seemed like. But he was saying that, we look at how quickly the internet, from the time that the internet was launched to when it was prevalent everywhere, and from the time when smartphones were launched to when they were prevalent everywhere, and from the time when social media was launched to being prevalent everywhere, each time there was a launch and then to be in total prevalence, that window got shorter and shorter and shorter. And so he was saying that it's likely that AI, the window before AI is prevalent everywhere and embedded in everything, it'll be even faster and shorter than smartphones were, or social media was. I think I got the order wrong, social media and then smartphones. But so I think that's the reality, that we are in these infancy days, this new frontier for AI solutions. And I think as a tech company in this space, we're really excited to see where we can take it and where we can push the envelope and provide what we call, as simplified, humanized experiences for all of our clients.
I think it's interesting to think that we're going to put this video online and people can watch it in a month and say, you guys, like, you didn't even mention this, that. It's like, yeah, we got to timestamp this video because it does move so fast.
Yeah, June 22nd, 2023.
Yeah, and information is accurate as of the date that we're recording this. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've been blown away by, it can be this time next week, something else crops up and you think, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think on that kind of final thought, and I'm not sure, we could cover more, but one of the things we're doing is we've built an internal learning management suite, or an LMS, for our in-person notaries and for our online notary team. So we're just starting to look at ways that AI tools could actually assist there. So for example, we can build an internal facing AI sort of chat support bot that would help our network of notaries answer common questions, guide them with different solutions. and then as well as our online notaries, and help them answer the most common questions. And that would be sort of on the learning and the professional development side, where there's less, call it, exposure to public scrutiny. So the bot can be wrong when you're in that space, but it also, again, it reduces repetitive tasks. It automates basic customer service functions. And I think, so that's where there's probably phases for a lot of companies. So if you're a startup founder watching this or listening, and you don't have to do it all at once. If you already have a product in the market that's making revenue and you're looking at how to deploy some AI, I mean, try it in one siloed use case and see how it goes, and then learn and iterate from there. And that's, frankly, that's what we're doing. I think that's probably what Google and Microsoft are doing, and OpenAI. I know that within GPT, I've seen more and more functions. They've added plugins and different functions to their platform, just even over the last 6 months, right? So, don't try to sort of chew on everything all at once. You can just take little bites and see what comes out the other side.
Yeah, and we did that for our customer support. We did roll it out at, we're in the UK, we're in the US, we're in South Africa, and in Canada. So we rolled it out in the UK first, then the US and South Africa, and now we learned along the way, and now it's rolling out in Canada. So and ultimately, I mean, going right back to the point you made earlier around the some of the advantages is that instant response that it can give. And so somebody can come to our website at 2 o'clock in the morning, ask a question, and they can get that answer in a split second. And some of these answers are better than we could have done it as a human being. Because when people ask questions that are not necessarily specifically about our products and services, that we would have to then go and research and provide them with an answer. So it's reaching beyond our knowledge. It can actually reach beyond that. And we've had some answers where we've looked at it and thought, wow, this is like fantastic, really good.
Well, and another big advantage you have there, and this is, I guess, we're making the case for trying AI in the customer service context, is the AI bot at any given moment is not facing any other competing demand, right? So whereas if you have frontline customer service staff, they may be engaged in a call while a series of tickets come in through your ticketing system.
Yeah.
And so their response to the tickets may be shorter, briefer, maybe a little more blunt than otherwise would have had they not been facing that other competing demand or task, or maybe a meeting or something like that. So there are some serious, contextual advantages to deploying AI in those high routine and repetitive roles and functions.
Oh, well, so when we rolled out live chat specifically years and years ago, when we first rolled it out and the customer would ask a question and our agent would reply and say, so could I just have your first and last name? And it would say customer typing. And the person's like,
right,
come on already. like, so the person, we had our customer service agent tied up waiting for this response from the customer, and it's just became the most inefficient customer service medium for us. So inevitably we ended up turning it off for the most part, because it was just one ticket could end up taking 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, because the customer on the other end was so slow to respond. And then even then, the customer's gone off and made themselves a cup of tea and then come back. We have no idea what the customer's doing, and we're waiting for them to type back to us. So and the other option is, we explored before, was, well, if we're not going to tie up one of our experts, let's outsource this. Let's go to a call center in the Maritimes. But then you've got to go through that same onboarding process, and you've got to train that person. So there were no efficiencies gained there either.
Yeah, no, and I can relate. We've experimented with different customer service outsourcing options and call centers, and it's your company may find success, or anyone watching, listening, like, you may find success with these solutions. Ultimately, we've leaned back on internally staffing the problem or the challenge function within the organization that hey, we need to have these seasoned experts, these SMEs within the organization that can handle any question thrown at them. And when they can't, they bounce it off the rest of our team. For the most part, we're all remote, and people are quick to respond. And so yeah, it's not I think you could say that the AI stuff, as we talk about it now, again, it's June 2023. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to be overnight, but you can layer it into your organization. And I think one other thing I wanted to mention was, at least within our organization, we use a lot of what we call system automations or process automations on the back end. So if X happens, then Y, then Z, and that means someone gets an email or someone else gets an email if the client responds. And there's a lot of ways that when people talk about AI, I think everyone thinks like chatbots and automated responses, but there's a lot of other, call it programmatic solutions or automation solutions that I would argue are more or less like having AI brains running in the background of your company that reduce your repetitive tasks. And there's a lot of great tools out there. Zapier is one of them, or Zapier, depending on what you're looking at. But there are ways that as a business owner you can reduce that grind feeling, the headache, that overhead burden, that aren't necessarily just chatbots. So look for those solutions as well, particularly if you're in that startup space and you're feeling like you're stretched in 40 directions, which is still how I feel a lot of days. But yeah, there's
right.
a lot to be gained.
We're talking really specifically in terms of the legal angles here, but absolutely, you need a business plan written. You need an Excel formula prepared for you. Like there were so many ways that you can use it in your everyday work, beyond customer support or legal document. So we were for this discussion, because I have software developer friends who it's changed their lives. So
yeah,
we're not really covering that aspect in this discussion.
No, and well, on that last note, I know for our developers, the AI capabilities in terms of testing your code and running your code through the AI, it's phenomenal, right? So I can't speak to it. I'm a lowly lawyer and notary, but the people way smarter than me that have built our solution, they are using AI to assist them and guide them, and really just to reduce their repetitive tasks, right? And finding quick typos within the code to debug and whatever, and then that helps you push things to production faster. And yeah, so it's a great conversation. There's a lot there on the dev side you could talk about, but I'm not we'll talk to our chief technology officer.
We'll have our CTOs do a fireside chat, and they can talk about how it's changed their lives. So
yeah. No, that'd be great. Well, yeah, Tim, honestly, great to chat with you. I mean, always a pleasure, and excited again. I mentioned our API integration with LegalWills, and that was just about a month ago, and lots of opportunities here to continue collaborating going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. I'm always interested to see what NotaryPro are up to. I know that you've changed the game so many times, like you're disrupting the industry, and I know that you got some good plans coming forward, in the next year or two. So I'm interested to see what NotaryPro are up to and see your advances in the next few years.
Awesome. And likewise, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Okay, bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.